And they're off. Here we go.
Further Faster, the best independently owned outdoor store in the known universe. Whether you're out on a climbing, paddling, tramping or running adventure, look no further than Further Faster for all your gear and expertise needs. Over the summer, it's getting hot. It's going to be epic. Head over to 57A Buchan Street in Sydenham, Otutahi, Christchurch, or hit them up at www.furtherfaster.co.nz.
Further faster, they're in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious. Go to Further Faster now.
Oh, further faster, they're in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious.
Go to Further Faster now.
Church Radio.
Episode 291 of the Dirt Church Radio Trail and Ultramarathon podcast. I'm Matt Raymond.
And I am Eugene Bingham. Tēnā koutou katoa. No mai. Haere mai. Hoki mai, depending on circumstances. Another episode of Dirt Church Radio. How are you going, Matt Raymond?
I'm going well, thank you, sir. I am putting one foot forward and it feels like at times several feet back, but yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. The great sort of concussion travail of 2024 continues, but very much sort of heading in the right direction. Yeah.
Close to 2K.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's, what are we now? A couple of months, isn't it? No, a month.
We're a month.
6 weeks?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're 6 weeks post, and I'm bored of it, and I would have rather broken my leg. So yeah, that's
still on restricted hours at work.
Still in restricted hours at work. Still getting symptoms of nausea. Still getting symptoms of like all that sort of stuff. But you know, this is it's transient. It's relatively minor. I'm still dealing with fatigue and all that stuff, but very much doing all the right things and heading in the right direction. But yeah, it's
and still getting out for some runs.
Still running. So I am cleared, and that's the thing too. I know I want to make this very, very clear to people that I am cleared to run. So it's actually one of the only times where I feel better when I do that. So I have to manage my fatigue and I have to manage that sort of stuff. But it's universally feel better. So
that's good. Long may it continue. No, that doesn't sound right. I mean,
long may the recovery
short may it continue.
I get what you're saying. And
may it continue.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yourself, sir.
Yes, well, it's a long may it continue situation here. So as we caught up for a coffee this morning, I was explaining I've taken one step forward and a couple of steps back. I was hoping to get back to running soon after having that discussion with the surgeon and figuring out that the surgery that was on offer was going to be a major, and that maybe there was potential for some just rehab and then getting back into running, but which I was hoping would be relatively soon, but having had some advice since then that it's still some way off. So I am calf raising and doing all sorts of strengthening exercises like you wouldn't believe, and trying to keep fit in other ways. So with the old swimming and the cycling and stuff. I don't know if you noticed this morning when we were sitting there and you were talking about the inversion layer overhead up the trig. It wasn't quite the trig, was it? But, we were joking about the inversion layer coming down upon the Riverhead Forest. And I said, oh, yeah, Alpe d'Huez. And then I realised, wow, that's a sign, isn't it? So I've been
cycling.
It's a cycling reference. Like, oh, no, they're getting to me.
I did note that. I didn't want to say anything. But that, I mean, look, there's no sugarcoating this. It sucks. It sucks so much for you.
Yeah. I've taken some steps in the last couple of weeks because I was getting a bit about it all. I've gone off Strava, so I just can't be on there at the moment. It's just doing my head in a bit. So, I think because before I'd seen the surgeon, I was kind of like, okay, cool, I can deal with this. But now it's just sort of like gone into this sort of amorphous sort of like, I don't know when things are going to be right. And I just want to take a break. from watching people doing cool runs.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? We were talking about that this morning again with, I was talking to Lola, who's been injured for a while, and she said she had the same experience. She said, as much as she loves the community and loves everything about it, she just couldn't be around it. So and completely understand that,
Yeah, I'm not quite at that point. I'm still here, but I am. I just was just finding myself sort of almost like doom scrolling people's runs, like, oh, that looked fun. Oh, that looked awesome. Oh, kudos. So anyway, I've taken a break. I've got myself off it, which I think is good to do. So, look, you are going off and doing something exciting this very weekend.
Yeah, I am. I am going with Ali Pottinger, and we're going over to Katoomba, which is in the Blue Mountains, which is somewhere where I feel like is becoming not a second home, but it's funny, isn't it? I was speaking to Rebecca about it this morning, and I was saying it's actually a place where if I went there right now, I could get around it. Oh. I've gone past that point where the first couple of times you go, you're like, oh, I could navigate around the town. So, yeah, it's really incredible, and I feel very, very privileged to be doing it. Obviously, gutted you can't come, but
yeah, this is another thing. I was supposed to be having surgery, and so I said I can't come, and now I'm not having surgery, but I'm still anyway. I'm still I'm having one of those years, Matt. Anyway, you know. So look, things aren't falling into place, but that's all right. That's all right. It's all good. So you're going to have a cool time with Ali.
Yeah, we're going to have a cool time with Ali, and we're going to do so. For those who are interested and those who will be around, we're going to do a live podcast. So it's going to be on Thursday night. It's going to be at Scenic World. I don't think I have to say more than that. It's Scenic World. It's in Katoomba. Everyone knows where that is. Or Google it. It's at 7 p.m. Australian time, and so we're going to be having 4 guests up. We're going to be talking to Matt Pridham, who is a firefighter, and he's one of the originals who put together the Fire East Climb. We're going to be talking to Professor Dominic Rowe, who is he's a neuropsychologist, and he is one of the leading researchers into motor neuron disease, and I think he's head of neuropsychological medicine at Macquarie University. And then you've got our mate Gavin, who's leading the charge on this, like he is the Energizer Bunny, and is aiming to run up and down the Furba steps for 24 hours. And amazing. Then we've also got someone, a woman by the name of Jane Simpson, who's going to share she lost her husband to motor neuron disease and is involved with the MND advocacy and charity. So it's going to be a great night. Really, really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to sharing stories and, how it intersects with sort of health and running and also this is a scary, complex thing. So, and then of course we'll be sorry.
I was going to say, so it's the 7 o'clock on Thursday night is the podcast, and then the actual run itself kicks off at midday on the Friday.
Yeah.
It goes for 24 hours.
It goes for 24 hours.
People are sort of obviously Gavin's going to be aiming for 24, but others will be doing other distances and things, and there's all sorts of people turning up, isn't there?
There's all sorts of people turning up. And we're in the group chat, and there's all sorts of sort of it's getting legs, there's all sorts of Australian broadcast people and various excitement that we don't understand because obviously we're Kiwis, so apologies, but yeah, it's going to be super exciting. And
Troy Sachs, I think
Troy Sachs is coming on. Yep, he's coming along on Saturday. My quads are quivering just thinking about it, but I'm also really excited. I'm keen. We've abandoned obviously the notion of Ali and Kerry last week talking about you do your big effort 6 months out from a run, and that would have been too big a effort.
It would have been destructive.
Yes.
But you are going to get up for a run
100%.
on the steps?
100 100%, 100%. And Ben Berryman's he's actually consented to me conducting an interview with him as we climb up the further steps. So that'll be probably trash, but you know.
A 4-hour interview.
That's right.
So yeah, take a big SD card. And Rebecca's going over as well. Is she going to have a crack?
Yep. So Rebecca she's training for the Crater Rim Ultra. So she's entered in the 50K. That'll be her next event, and she's training like a beast at the moment. So yeah, she's keen. She's coming over. She's going to get after it. So yeah, just looking forward to it. And it's you know, the details are in our show notes. It is for a great cause. So please be generous.
Indeed. Another biggish, well, you know, comparison's the thief of joy and everything, you know, so maybe UTMB will be suffering a little bit on the comparison with the Fireys climb. But yeah, UTMB this week. And of course, you know, there's been a lot of kind of excitement about Dan Jones, but people are kind of almost forgetting that Ruth Croft, you know, she's lining up and she has a shot, doesn't she?
She has a shot, man. This has been her main Dan Jones is doing the CCC.
Yes.
So,
but there's been a lot of noise around what he's doing and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Ruth is kind of success, as she kind of tends to do, is sort of like go under the radar a little bit.
Absolutely, 100%.
You know, and it's I'm super excited. I mean, that women's race, I was having a look at the I Run Far women's preview.
I know.
And you know, four of the top 5 from Western States lining up, and a couple of other women who've run incredible times there at UTMB and finished in the top 5 in the last couple of years. And then R Croft, wow, and a pole assisted R Croft as well.
I know. It speaks to her, doesn't it? And it speaks to the fact that, you know, remember Tarawera this year, and there we were going through on the night train and standing on the mic and who should be just tucked up on the barrier. There wasn't that many people there, but Ruth bloody Croft, completely anonymous, applauding every single person that came in, really cool, just hanging out. You know, and through to like she went through to like 1 or 2 in the morning, just you know, working. She said I had a lot of caffeine today, so I'm not sleepy, but just came down low key, and that's her approach. I think it's I mean, this has obviously been her focus. She couldn't line up last year, so I'm fully. I fell out of the Croft tree and hit every branch on the way down. I tell you what, I'm here for it.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Yeah. And the Great Naseby Water Race is on this weekend as well. It's going to be cool. Lots of people heading in that direction. And, of course, I went and ran there last year, so it's got a special little place in my heart, Naseby. It's kind of like I was thinking it was like the OG backyard, really, because you just sort of loop around. It's got the tent city. You know, you just keep going and going, one more lap. Until you can't, like I did last year. So beginning of the end, really. But it's a cool course. The weather is always a big factor. It can get extremely cold there. Last year it was people were saying it was moderate cold, but I tell you what, it was friggin' brass monkeys. It was so cold. I was so pleased that we had a place with a fire. We at the Airbnb we had a fire, so that was very, very handy. So yeah, good luck to everyone heading down there.
We just don't understand being Aucklanders that level of cold. It just isn't it's not a thing we have to deal with, and when you're faced with it, it's quite something. It's
confronting.
It's confronting. Yeah, I remember being in the tent in the middle of a field in Canterbury when we did the skedaddle, and all my clothes. And I had we've got nice clothes, right? Like we've got nice outdoor clothes. I was in all my outdoors clothes, puffer jacket, hat, everything, in a sleeping bag with a thermal thing, thinking, am I doing this wrong? But it turns out, no, it was just that cold. It's apparently it's snowing down in Naseby.
It's always around this time, and it's whether it snows on race day would be the big. I think it snowed the week before last year, but we didn't get any snow on race day itself. But it was freaking cold. And Shannon Lee Litt, of course, is racing on the back of her world record streak of ultramarathons. Amazing. Remember at Tarawera when I think that was her last race, maybe. Oh no, she raced overseas, didn't she? But came in on that 100-mile and then had to get up not the next morning, the same morning because it was early hours of the morning to do another ultra. But yeah, she's a machine, absolutely. So that's going to be interesting as well. And then of course our mate Jenny Hurst having her big day out coming up very soon, September, the weekend after. But I just wanted to mention it again in case you missed it. So she's doing 60 for 60 kilometres running around the North Shore trails and beaches, which is a cool loop that she's got sorted out. I had a look. It's very similar to one we did for a not Tarawera, a couple of years back. And she is raising money for the Mental Health Foundation in honour of her dad who took his life. So get along and support her, get out there and cheer her along or run a few laps with her or be there at the end and buy her a beer, or better still, jump on to the link on our show notes and support her fundraising efforts.
It's interesting in Jenny's case, and she's very open about her dad, God rest him, took his own life at age 60, and people seem to people talk about the issue of suicide as it relates to younger people generally. But it's especially important through the lifespan. I mean, men obviously have a higher actuarial rate, or both actuarial and actually it's a dynamic risk throughout the lifespan. Women as well, generally tends to actually decline, but it is a raised. There's a raised chance. But those older adults, it's not just. The young people we have to be looking, or people in middle age. It's our older adults as well, and it's something that's really, really an ongoing and very kind of urgent issue. So yeah,
absolutely. Right, we should just jump into this. Greatest run ever.
Greatest run ever.
Greatest run ever, brought to you by SQUADRUN. Give their 4-week special coaching trial a go. You can find the link on the website, www.dirtchurchradio.com. This is the part of the show where we ask you to write into us and tell us your greatest run ever. It doesn't have to be a race or a mountain summit. It might just be a run around the block, something that sung to you for some reason. You send them in to us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. This is from Fiona Curry. And she says, Kia ora from Cumbria in England. Firstly, we're massive fans of the show. Thank you very much, Fiona. And yours is the first podcast myself and husband have found that we can listen to for 8 hours plus continuously on a long drive south to see family. So thank you. That's a punishing amount of
that is punishing.
Matt Raymond.
Yeah, just to be clear, our partners would not listen to us for 8 minutes continuously, let alone 8 hours. So, wow.
I don't think Rebecca's ever listened to an episode of Digital Radio.
I don't think Suzanne has either. So, yeah, 8 minutes is a stretch. So thank you.
Thank you. That's very kind. I'm actually, wow. We also love New Zealand and visited for our honeymoon in December 2018 for a month and are planning a big revisit probably in the next 10 years. She puts us really far away, and we have a 4.5-year-old Labrador called Morris now, and we wouldn't want to leave him for that long anyway. We love the segment, Greatest Run Ever, and enjoyed our run on Saturday so much that we knew we had to write in. We moved to Cumbria in July 2021 from Cheltenham in the south of England. My mum was from the northeast of England, and at least 3 generations of the women in her family have been bringing their children to the north of Cumbria to stay in a camper van, including me and my siblings. When I brought my now husband James to visit and camp in Cumbria for the first time in the summer of 2013, we both ended up revisiting most years, every bank holiday we could to camp and hike. We thought we might as well move here when we retired, but life and a pandemic happened, and working from home combined with office work meant that we were able to move to Cumbria in 2021. We graduated from road runners to very keen trail and fell runners since we moved here. Particularly fell running is really popular, with the Bob Graham round definitely in our sights for the future. Fast packing and ultra running are 2 things that we've started this past year, and the Cumbria Way from Ulverston south of Cumbria to Carlisle in the north was something we really wanted to do. On Saturday, 6th July, we set off from Premier Inn in Ulverston just after 6 a.m. with the intention of getting to Keswick, which is 46 miles, in about 12 hours. This is the longest run we've ever done by about 14 miles, the last long run being the Tear Around George Fisher is a shop in Keswick, you run all the mountains.
Sorry, Matt. I have to say this. It's Keswick.
Oh.
Yeah. Carry on.
But it's spelled Keswick.
Yeah, I know. But it's Keswick.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies to the good people of Keswick. Okay. The last long run being the Terror Round, and it says George Fisher is a shop in Keswick, and you run all the mountains you can see from the cafe window. It's awesome. We'd planned to do this adventure in March, but we ended up travelling to a family funeral on the Isle of Wight and listening to your podcast to keep us sane on the very... Sorry, I still laugh at that. On the very long journeys to and from the island. My, was at the time 92-year-old grandmother, then broke her hip and fractured a shoulder on the island the day before the funeral. And I, with family, have been working since then to get her help care at home 2 months after she was allowed home from hospital. She's since been diagnosed with vascular dementia. This Saturday, we're in a position 4 months on to be able to return to the plan of this run, my grandma now being safe at home with care support in place. That's good to hear. Yeah. The weather was incredible, around 15 or 16 degrees and sunny. The whole section from Ulverston to Coniston water was new to us, and we were rewarded with beautiful views behind us towards the Hode Monument in Ulverston and the sea, then moving towards the mountains and the Lake District National Park ahead of us, knowing we would be running up the Langdale Valley into the mountains. We ran next to Coniston Water through the woodland, passing a paddle boarder with their dog on their board and running past a full campsite and Duke of Edinburgh Award School students on the expeditions. We had loaded up on recently tested tailwind to keep us fueled, and we're happy that this helped us feel great until banana bread and tiffin stop at Coniston. What's tiffin?
Oh, I don't know. Might have to look that up.
Right in.
Carry on.
No. After Coniston, we also passed Tam House, a beautiful spot we'd walked around before, and eventually Alta Water, where James heard someone call out his name, and it happened to be someone he works with out for a Saturday stroll with his family. We followed that way to Langdale and watched a wall of weather coming through the mountains in the valley and just outran it, taking shelter in a pub for some chips and, regretted later, a Scotch egg. Yeah, Scotch eggs never made it to the pantheon of like real food during a run, eh?
It always sounds better than it actually is. Right?
Can I have a hard-boiled egg wrapped in sausage meat? Anyway, I may have had eyes bigger than my stomach and might not have a massive meal with 16 miles to go in the future. Lesson learned. It was then waterproofs on for the next hour climbing, eventually up Stakes Pass, through Langdale, out and over when the rain cleared and the views opened up back over Langdale towards Rothwaite via stunning waterfalls and views for days. We were both starting to flag at this point, but topped up bottles in another clear, cold and beautiful stream, not short of those in the Lake District. Even struggling in the pain cave a bit, we could both appreciate how special it would be to be outside all day, testing ourselves together and connecting paths that we'd walked in different hikes. Bagging Wainwrights, and it says here, 214 peaks Alfred Wainwright wrote about in his books. That's why they're called Wainwrights, in one way. There were no dead miles, no boring miles, just beautiful, varied and interesting miles of views, waterfalls, water, and people enjoying being outside. When we finally approached towards Rothwaite, we were on the home straight on one of our well-trodden regular Sunday long runs towards Derwent Water and back into Keswick, where the famous moot hall is to finish the Bob Graham round. James touched it to finish, though it's not a Cumbria way thing, apparently, and we drove home tired but fully satisfied from an epic adventure together.
There you go. There you go. 2 things. 3 things.
4 things. Go.
Keswick.
Keswick, sorry, apologies.
Yeah, that's all right. Bob Graham round. That's the only reason I knew it. Otherwise, I would have been in the same position. 2, I used to live in Cheltenham.
Huh.
There you go. Where Fiona moved from. And 3, a tiffin. So, if you look it up, I Googled it, got different answers, including an Auckland restaurant, Indian restaurant called Tiffin.
Probably not that one.
I don't think that's what she meant. It's also referred to as a light midday snack. So like not quite lunch. But I think probably what she's referring to, well, you can correct us here, Fiona, is a tiffin is as the BBC describes it, nothing could be easier than tiffin. There's barely any actual cooking in this tea time treat. Swap the raisins for any other preferred dried fruit, and it all will work perfectly. So what you have is golden syrup, unsalted butter, milk chocolate roughly chopped, dark chocolate roughly chopped, oat biscuits, such as digestives, malted milk balls, such as Maltesers, and raisins. And you just kind of like melt the stuff and put it in a thing and mix
it's
it
like
up.
a slice.
It's like a slice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Delicious. I think that's probably what she meant. Yeah. And what was the fourth thing?
Scotch egg flavoured Towan.
Oh, do it. Hey, thanks, Fiona. And we hope your hats arrived as well. Thank you for ordering those. Appreciate it. 8 hours in a car with us. I feel I need to apologise.
Yeah.
Anyway. All
We
right.
can't even go 8 hours in a car with us.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, that was epic. Right. The rest of you, have a read of Fiona's submission. And she also sent in some photos as well. Maybe we could put the Tiffin recipe in there as well. We'll put them on our website, dirtchurchradio.com, and have a read of Fiona's, get inspired, send us your one, send it in to us, dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. Much appreciated. Right. We've got something special today. We won't lie. We were caught a little bit short, so we've come up with this idea, which is...
And in a follow-on from last week's, actually, last week's discussion with Kerry and Ali, we thought, why not talk about it? We're going to talk about my upcoming 100-mile race and your previous experience.
Yeah. So we had a little bit of a chat with Kerry and Ali maybe a month or so back about you taking this on and what it would mean and stuff. But we thought it was good to have a real deep dive into the why, the how, and the where, and all that sort of stuff, and really get our heads around what it is, or explain really what it is, because I'm sure you've got your head around it, what it's going to be all about. So, yeah. So maybe just set the scene a little bit, Matt. What got you thinking to take this on?
It came out of nowhere. Well, not did it come out of nowhere really. It was around Christmas last year, where we were sitting around the house. Lola got COVID, so on Christmas Eve, so we couldn't go out. You couldn't go to a family, and we were, so we had this. It's actually quite nice. We got to hang out as a family, and we're sitting there. And Rebecca and I were kicking back. We were watching the Jeff Peltier video where he and his partner run the Tour de Mont Blanc in 4 days. So not only that was the first thing that we thought about, like we should do that. So we made a goal to do that in a couple of years. And then it really kind of dawned on me that this is something that I wanted to do. And it also dawned on me that I've been involved with the race in one form or another for a few years now, either with sort of being a participant back, 10 years ago, to being involved with Kiwi Trail Runner magazine or Dirt Church Radio and our commentating and stuff like that. And just that it just sort of felt right, really, actually. It's multiple. Because
You've been previously resistant to it, haven't you? Like, sort of almost aggressively so, resistant to it. There are people buried in the Riverhead Forest who have brought it up in front of you.
Yes.
Like, why aren't you doing this? So what changed?
Well, that's true. I mean, and I had that thing, isn't it? I said that I'd add a year on every year. If any of our friends mentioned it to me, I'd be like, right, I'll do it in 2027. What changed is I sort of thought all the people that I love and respect in terms of our friend group have completed it, and it's meaningful for them, and I want to have that experience, not feeling I don't feel left out by it, but I wanted that experience. And to be completely and perfectly honest to you, the why is I'm finally in a place where I can actually afford it. And that's it hasn't been an option, or it hasn't felt like an option before in terms of the spend, and I know that we've been intimately involved with Tarawera Ultra Trail and Kosciuszko and UTA and all those things, and there's people probably saying, oh, he blagged an entry, and I very possibly could have talked to Devon and finagled an entry, but that never entered my mind for a second, because it wouldn't have felt right. It would have kind of cheapened the experience using that sort of privilege. So I've, first full ride entry, no special deals, straight in there. That was a big thing too, knowing that we had the spend for it.
And it's not just, let's be honest, and I was talking to someone about this the other day actually, that it's when you take on one of these things, it's not just the race entry fee, it's all the costs associated around it, and not just getting down to the event, but there's a big cost in terms of the various your preparation as well. So yeah.
That's. What do we got? We've got shoes. You're burning through. Let's say you're doing, I don't know, and not all shoes are created equal, and not all shoes, they burn out at different rates, and they burn out for different reasons. So let's say we will be up to sort of, you're up over 100 kilometers a week for, 4 to 5 months. You're burning through a lot of shoes. You're burning through a lot of stuff. You're looking at nutrition. You're looking at if you get coached. You're looking at wear and tear on gear. That's not even talking about like spend from family, all of that, time away from loved ones. People have, all of that stuff. It's
more likelihood of like needing physio and that sort of stuff, so all those different things all add up, don't they? I've never actually done the maths, but minimum couple of grand, isn't it?
Look, it's and
minimum.
And this is the thing. It's again, like I'm far, not an oligarch. It's that thing, isn't it? It's but our accommodation was, north of a couple of grand in terms of, because we're taking, a family away with us, and that's going to be exciting and cool. But it's that thing. So that was part of the why as well. Like I'm in that position where I have both the family spend and the desire and the means to do it, and it never sort of felt right, because perhaps back in the before time I pushed that boat out, and it didn't feel right, and so I sort of self-limited for quite a while. So
that's your why for entering, but your why that's going to keep you going when it sucks is a different thing altogether, because it's not, I suppose it could be, I've spent a lot of money on this, I better keep going, but it's that saying of, I think it was Anton Krushka, wasn't it, who said, by the time you get to halfway in a 100-mile race, A, you better figure out your why, and B, the song stuck on repeat in your head, it better be a good one.
Yeah.
Because there always is in there. But you can deal with, I'm sure you can adequately deal with the I've got no doubt about you on the music, but your why is really important, isn't it? And you've got a long time before then, and we've talked about this on DCR lots of times, haven't we, that you can't have a performance-based goal as your why. It's got to be much more meaningful than that, because if it is, as soon as you slip off that, you're going to want to pull. So have you started to think about what your the thing that's going to motivate you in the dead of night?
In the dead of night, it's that whole thing of having a felt sense, or being sort of overcoming those last vestiges of you can't do this, or you're not made to do this, or you're not built to do this, or you're not, there's another balancing that as well with, finding my limit. Like I want to, and it's in a very safe and controlled environment, let's be honest. It's not like heading out into the Tararua to do an SK in the middle of winter. Like it's nothing like that. But it's like I quite like problem solving. I quite like putting myself in positions where, I am challenged. I like overcoming challenges. And in fact, and actually I'm intensely competitive. So mainly with myself, but if you line me up, you know, it's so there's that as well, you know, it's not to, you know, and also too, it's that kind of, one of my whys is I want to, this is another part of it. I seek empathy and I seek connection with people who listen to Dirt Church Radio, and also with people who cross the line at these events, you know, and it's not for nothing. Like I look across at you and you have your toki on and I'm like, huh. And it's not a, oh, yeah, goddamn Eugene or anything, but it's a real cool thing, you know, like, and you see other people and they wear it openly and they wear it not like I'm a Flash Harry, look at me, but it's just that real kind of, that part of that club, you know what I mean? And I kind of want to be in that club. I don't want to be in many clubs. It's probably the first club I've ever wanted to be in.
Is that I heard you saying you want to find your limits. I guess that made me a little bit worried that there might be a point in the race where you go, oh okay, well, I found my limit. I'm out.
No, I want to find my limits and go past them. Like there's no, I can tell you right now, there's no, and maybe it's a thing too, like when I fell and hit my head, or like the guy from Dirt Church Radio not doing tarawera, it's not an option. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just that sort of like I would like to be like Mark Manson and think I don't care what other people think of me. I do care what people think of me.
Yeah, but you and I have both DNF'd on during the course of Dirt Church Radio.
True.
So that's I just don't, you know, I think I'm pushing you here because I think you need to find, you know, like it's and it's not something, you know, we've come across this in other races. We've been there in other races where you find yourself doubting yourself and you're feeling sorry for yourself and you are looking for every single excuse to get out of this race. So you need to be damn sure that this is a lock solid, you know, reason that is in your head. We know it can't be performance based. We know it can't be, you know, we just know those demons that are going to come at us, don't we? When we're feeling it.
Yeah. Yeah. And perhaps that's a part of it too. It's that sort of, that thing of just, but it is overcoming, you know, it will be a test and I'm looking forward to that test. And that is what I enjoy testing myself. I enjoy being pushed, you know the job I have. And you know the job that I do, and you know the job that I'm doing now, and the job, you know, and I was like, hey, what, like I'll do that job, you know, put my hand up, like volunteer for the hard jobs, and that's a sense of service and a sense of satisfaction. And I think taking that into the run too, you know, like I'm not going to be glib and say, I just want to test my limits, but like I do, you know, like it's
yeah. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit worried that's a reason to get to the start line. Yeah,
right.
Whether it's a reason to keep you going when it sucks.
What was your way?
Is one I would question. I had I guess that I had come to a point where I wanted to, I knew that I could, and it was just like there was no, I got to a point in my training where I had just convinced myself that it was going to work, that it was possible. So there was just absolutely no doubt in my mind on the start line. But again, I don't think that's good enough, because when you can feel as good as you like on the start line, but when you're, I don't know, 20 hours deep or something, and your legs are hurting and your brain is foggy and whatever, I don't think that's going to help you. So for me, it was family, whānau, that I wanted to, that I had in my mind and I wanted to. I have always run, and I wrote a little bit about this last week, sort of inspired by my dad, who was my best, my first running mate. We ran together around the block, and then I lost him suddenly 20 years ago this year. But he is never far from my thoughts when I'm really pushing myself in terms of running, because he always believed in me much more than I did.
Yeah.
And I guess I took that for granted a bit when he was around, but since he's passed, he comes with me, and sometimes I can hear him running with me actually if I'm on my own. So that's just, that's an inspiration for me and a kind of a determination for me. So those were my, but there's a differentiation between the determination to get to the start line and then the determination that's going to work, that's going to push you on, that's going to keep you going.
Well, I think, if we consider that, and maybe I think about it, it would definitely be family, and for me, it's a very changeable, like my experience and sort of my being estranged from my parents. It's a different dynamic, and it's been such a long time that it's almost like if anything, it's I told you I could.
Yes.
Or I'll show you I can. But I wonder if that's not the most healthy thing. That's very much sort of, that's, as Kerry says, it's sort of verging into red lightsaber, melting clown face kind of thing. And I don't know if that's...
Sometimes that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes nothing wrong with that. Like I've run plenty of races where I've been like we don't generally swear on Dirt Church, but, I've been Rugby Bark. It's like I'm going to show you, and it's not even people who are there, so they won't give a rat's. But to me, it's like I'm going to show you, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It is quite hard to sustain it for 100 miles.
Exactly,
I think.
And that's the thing too. You don't want to kind of lose it. I think the why too. Like I'm really looking forward to experiencing it. It's something that I'm really interested to experience. And to remain present, and family above everything.
Absolutely. And I had our older boy Mark was crewing for me, and it was cool. It was like an adventure. Looking forward to catching up with him at the next stage, the next aid station and the next aid station and the next aid station. And he was so diligent and really got into it, and took his engineering mind approach to it, which I loved. And I just kind of gave everything up. Like, yep, you're in charge. You're in charge. You just point me in the right direction. And I love that. It was cool as well. So it was enjoyable as well.
No, that
aspect of it.
And that's the thing too, right? Like this is something that we do for fun. And that fun is, that like you think about, challenge, I want to find my limits, I want to chat. Like that's fun for me. Like that's part of that why is having, it's a really cool thing. And that's that's something that, it's important.
Yeah. Hey, so in terms of your physical training, you're being coached?
I am being coached. So I have been a long-term aerobic edge guy, Adam Keane, and that's really working for me at the moment. I'm really, and it sounds really anodyne to say trust the process, but that process of just putting bricks in the wall, it became very, very clear to me sort of the start of the year that strength work was going to become a really important part of me being successful at Tarawera. That kind of that part of it is I was talking to you this morning how I was sitting on the couch after doing one of those strength workouts, my arms were trembling uncontrollably, but feeling better. And I'm just at that point now where I'm really sort of putting those bricks in the wall, like starting to build up and build up and build up. I've done more racing this year than I've done, I think, ever. I did a backyard. A couple of weeks later, I did the skedaddle, W2K. I can't genuinely remember if there's been anything else. Put on Riv Ram. Don't think so.
Yeah, I think no. This year, I think that's it. Yeah. And what have you learned in terms of your miler from those races?
I just think it's the experience. It's putting yourself in those little micro moments of panic. Those little micro moments of darkness, those little micro moments of feeling terrible. And especially at Wu2K, like really kind of pushing yourself up to the limit of like, I really, really wanted to stop when I hit my head. And I really, 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 really did. And finishing if you knew that, you're far beyond, hours past your goal time, and not you, but just getting it done, and I thought if I can do this, if I can take this mindset forward, then that's something that, that gives you a little bit of kind of confidence, like I can suck up, I can take a punch to the face or a punch to the back of the head, as it were. That's really important. Yeah. Working on nutrition and just that kind of, being comfy in the race environment. I think that's going to be something, because I'm not looking forward to that start, and I don't. As cool as the environment is, I'm very much like you, mate. I'm not like someone who feels comfortable in those environments. So it's pretpretty type.
What do you mean by that?
It's pretty type A environment.
Yeah.
And that's not said with any blame or judgment. And just I'd be someone sort of hugging the walls.
Are you talking about those bloody race MCs?
Yeah,
trying to amp it up.
Exactly.
Bastards.
Terrible. There's that.
I found a piece at the start at Tapuia for the 100 mile in 2020 when I lined up there, and I was with our friend Sewan standing at the start line, and we, how he's certainly not that type of.
He's not a demonstrative man.
No, and yet he could kick all our asses. But anyway, he and I just sort of found a quietness in amongst all that craziness, and I actually drew strength from it. And it's just that misty, the geothermal activity going on around you, and the haka and the karakia and everything. It really just centered me and gave me a sense of peace and calmness that I then carried on. I was worried that I was going to get too hyped up and sort of take off or something crazy, but I found a real, calm and a calm determination. And so I hope you can find that too, because I'm sure you can. It's just but you do have to find your own place on a start line, don't you? Because it is easy to get caught up in other people's crap or their panic or their hypeness or, just there's so many strong characters around you.
That's right. And there's a lot of chat. I find that what happens with me is it's very much like, it's a parallel to at times at work when things are a little bit frightening, or there's an acuity or there's a seriousness to or an urgency to a situation. Some people either go quite quiet or some people get kind of loud. And I'm a very, very chatty human being. Anyone who knows me, anyone who's listened to this show, I go very, very, and not within myself, but just I close right down, and that's I worry about that too, because I don't want to come across as a dickhead, it's
A, it's going to be dark, so no one will know. But B, I think people understand. It's and that's what I did. I just kind of just closed down a little bit, and just it's funny because I don't feel quiet. I feel alive and I feel on fire, but I'm outwardly quiet, but inwardly like LFG. Yeah. I like it. It's a feeling I really miss, and I love it. It's a great feeling. It's just sort of the intensity, it's hard to replicate that anywhere else.
What, I mean, for you, and this is like thinking about, building up and key sessions and stuff, but like what was it for you? I mean, you were self-coached and we have that you have a, you're a very, very experienced runner. What were your kind of key, when you were leading up to that distance, what were your key kind of sessions?
I ran Kepler and before, so about every 4 weeks I was doing a good sized run. And the first of those was Kepler. No, it can't have been. Must have had one before that. Yeah, I did. I had one. I did I think I did a double out at brain dead. Muruai.
You did. We went on it with you with
Yes. Anyway, Sean came with me and we did. What is the name of that track? Tahenga.
Yeah.
So I did a double Tahenga out along that track. So lots of walking.
Yeah.
Or tramping, hiking, and lots of kind of some nutrition challenges of being able to find water and stuff like that, which was good because it sort of threw me. So that I did that in the November, and then I did Kepler in the December. And then I did I think I said this last week. I did my long run, my January long run too close to the race itself. And it was interesting. Kerry said you might find afterwards that you're fine to run 60 minutes, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's actually true. I was, because I didn't feel fatigued. I was, the night it's like I did that run. It was an 80K run, 12 hours. And I finished feeling fine, actually. I was, and I saw Rebecca, and
she said that you looked like you were out doing a 5K.
I felt good. I felt really good. And then that night we were going out for dinner, and I got home and jumped in the shower, went out to dinner, was fine. I don't think I ran the next day, but the day after that I ran, and I felt fine, but I wasn't. There was a deep tiredness there that I didn't get over in time before the race itself. So that would be, I mean, obviously you're being trained by Adam, who knows his stuff. So, but that was the thing that worried me. But I made sure I did sessions as well and did pace. I didn't just try and run plodding. So I was running, 5K time trials and doing, repetitions, fast repetitions and stuff, trying to keep my running economy and my leg speed going, which I think, especially on a course like Tarawera, where there's a lot of running, it's not a Northburn where you're spending a lot of time just hiking. You actually do a lot of running at Tarawera. And I remember, I've said this before as well, but I remember when I entered Tarawera and I was talking to Grant Guys about it, and he said, actually, I find Tarawera harder than Northburn because you get fooled into doing so much running early on. And so by the time you get to, whatever it is, 60, 80 miles deep, you've run a hell of a lot. Whereas at Northburn, you just can't run. It's just not possible.
You're self-limiting.
Yeah, absolutely. So but that means that you have to train to be able to run, You've got to train to be able to keep running more than you might for, another type of course. So I did those sessions as well. I think he said to you this morning that I just, before October, I just made sure that I was fit enough to be able to run a marathon at any at a drop of a hat. Like if somebody had said, hey, quick, you've got to run, 40 kilometers this afternoon, go, I could, but I wasn't pushing myself beyond that until after October. What have you had a chat to Adam about what your approach is going to be?
Yeah, it's very much, I mean, you can't, the only person I think about like who kind of goes against this is that kind of Jason Cooper in the Fundamentals of Ultramarathon, where he talks about, you do the big block of, really smashing yourself, and then you do the, it's a very specific thing, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing, a lot of, so I'm 6 days a week doing a lot of, I do a session where it's more of a tempo thing. I'll do a time trial, I do 10K out and back, 5K out and back, vary it like that. Hill repeats or some such other thing. 2 long runs in the weekend. Go for I'll have a mix. Sometimes it's like today was a 3.5 hour really cruisy time on feet, eating, drinking, but the goal was like 700 to 1,000 meters of vert. Came in just shy. As Riverhead, it was a pretty good effort. But then other times it'll be like 60, 60, 60 or something like that. So it's just that kind of, it's keeping the legs turning over. And very much we were talking about it. Yesterday actually, and it's that thing of, like you said, you don't want it to look like a dragon's back. You want consistency, and sort of building up that mileage. So I've topped out about 85K this week and looking to, keep building and until things are, I don't want to overdo it. But that consistency. So yeah, it's not rocket science.
It isn't, is it? It's an aerobic sport like we talked about last week. And it's you just got to be able to, I think the most important thing is keeping fit and keeping, by which I mean not injured and well, which is a challenge. And it's not rocket science. Look at how many people do it. So we can do it, of course you can. And you've run, 100Ks. How many times have you run 100Ks?
I can't remember.
A couple of times?
Yeah, at least a couple, 3 times. Yeah.
3 times? Yeah. So, you can do it.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of how prepared you are. And I guess... Andrew
McDowell would say I didn't at Blue Lake. I ran 96, but I'm claiming it.
You ran to North Taha, so
according to
what are you talking about? Yeah. Look at Strava. I think one of the biggest things is going to be not getting in your head too much. And, Kerry has talked about, hasn't he, like avoiding the spreadsheet and stuff. And it's a bit of you need some organization, but you don't want to get stuck on, I have to be at such and such by such and such a time, because then that's just, as soon as you stop hitting that, then it's going to.
Well, I mean, you know me, a fundamentally disorganized human being who can be organized when he needs to be. And that's what I'm sort of taking into my, you can't I'm probably not going to have an Excel spreadsheet because, it's not me. And that's not kind of that process of being authentic. I tell you what, being one of the biggest, and this is sort of the first time I guess I'll talk about it on air, one of the major decisions I made before I entered, and thinking about cost and offsetting everything, is I stopped drinking alcohol. In December 31st was the last time that I had a beer or any kind of alcohol, and it's now nearly September.
Yep.
And that has made a fundamental change, mainly to my sleep. And that's something that I love sleep. I love sleeping. It's so good. Dreaming, waking up, finally after doing shift work for nearly 20 years, that took it took me years to get my sleep pattern back. But that's really important, and that's been one of the most kind of probably the 1%ers that's really, and only just starting, people talk about it's not an anti-alcohol thing at all. People talk about a dry month or something. It took me maybe 6 months to start to feel better, and so that's been a massive positive for this year. So, and actually, if you talk about process, committing, if I can commit to getting up and running, I can commit to not having a beer. So yeah, and that's my individual approach. But yeah.
Do you, in terms of decisions to be made, pacer, no pacer?
Pacer. Well, it would have been you, but reasons. So I have a pacer, and I'm very much for the 60K or. Well, I mean, it'll be
It's not 60K. Sorry, 40K.
40K, yeah, for the full 40K, definitely. And that's just because it's my first time, and it's that kind of, it'll be at night, it'll be, just someone who's keeping me on the straight and narrow, really. I'll be grateful for company, and I'll be excited to, that's cool too, like being excited to hear and see things and just, yeah. So, yeah, really, really, really excited. I've got an amazing crew lined up, and, Rebecca being the heart of that. And that's really cool too, having a not only is she, my wife, she knows me very well. You've hung out with her. She's a pretty formidable human being, and it's not, there's not kumbaya or guitars.
I don't know. I thought
she strikes a good balance, right?
Yeah,
but
absolutely. And that was evident at W2K, and that was cool to hang out with her and the girls as they crewed you, or as we crewed you on that race.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Rebecca was the lead, absolutely. And that was good to, it was interesting to see, she has that balance of being hard when she needs to be, but also the kindness and tenderness that is also evident from her, all the time. So, she's no Dave Goggins,
no, with
you.
So, no, she's not.
Yeah, thank goodness.
No, thank goodness, because that wouldn't work. So
no, especially with you, I reckon you'd buck against a Dave Goggins.
I would kick against it so hard, which I'd still probably finish, but it'd be like, like whatever, dickhead. Not saying David Goggins is a dickhead. Not saying it.
Nope. Just in that moment.
Yeah.
Look, what about we touched on nutrition, and you've tried a couple of things during your races this year. Have you got any thoughts on what you're going to do with nutrition?
I think I'm going to avoid as much as possible the buffet aid stations, as much as possible. I will have my little baggie with me if I want to graze. I generally like chippies and stuff like that. Like I like salty, savory, crunchy, delicious chippies. I like fluids. I'm pretty good. Like body's a trash can, right? Like I can take most things. So gastric distress isn't something that, knock on wood, I've had too much of an issue with. But it'll be a combination of just variation, I guess, real food at real food times. So thinking about like, if I'm having around lunchtime, what would I need to do to have some real food, dinner time.
That's a real Sean Collins approach.
Huh? Yeah. Dinner time, same thing. Yeah. A mix of gels and, real food, and just, whatever the fancy takes me. But I'll refine that too. Like
you got plenty of time, because that's going to be key on your long runs is sorting out that nutrition, isn't it?
Yep.
Figuring it out, nailing it down.
There'll be a few sessions and specifically targeting. It'll be overnight, a lot of hiking.
Yeah.
And that'll be one of the things that's the time to try it.
Yeah. That was, you mentioned the key runs earlier. That's a couple of times I did Friday night. So work all day, get up in the morning and run, work all day Friday, and then go for an overnight run or a couple of hours. I think once I ran after a rugby test. Oh no, that was actually for my 24-hour race. But getting up and running in the evening, starting at 10 o'clock or something, and going out for sort of 4 or 5 hours, just to get your body used to moving at that time of night. And, we mentioned this earlier, didn't we, on the other podcast where we talked with Kerry and Ali about this, that you've had years of doing night shift, so staying up, but it's another thing to be staying up and running, isn't it? And keeping on, and eating and all those sorts of things. So it's good to throw those sorts of sessions into the mix as well.
And there's a sense of excitement, like that excites me.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of, thinking about why, like that's an experience I really want to have, and I think about that, like, because I think about it a lot. I'm like, what will I be like at this time? What will I be like at this time? I wonder what this will be like. I wonder what this, it's really cool.
And to me as well, it was like I'd worked another, getting back to the why, I'd worked so hard on it. I'd committed myself to it. I took the campaign approach.
You did.
And the race was like the cherry on top.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. It was just fun, I was gutted that you couldn't be there and to share it with me. And that was kind of it sort of changed things a bit, but it was just I just really enjoyed it. It was so fun. And I kind of, even in those moments where I was struggling or hallucinating about robots and things, it was just fun. It was like, wow, this is cool. And I'm sort of, it was like the victory lap. I'd done all the work, and this was the victory lap that I got to enjoy it. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for you. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited too. We're just thinking about kind of longest runs now. So, we're having that conversation and we're sort of thinking,
plan some adventures, I reckon. Get out of the forest and go and do some runs somewhere else and, find some people to go and hang with and, for a good sort of 6-8 hours or whatever it might be. So, enjoy it. It's going to be cool.
That's the thing. And something that, as someone who's completed 100 miles, is if you could go back, would you go back?
To Tarawera
or to 100 miles?
Well, I tried to last year.
You did?
And I came up short.
You did?
Yeah.
But you still...
So that was I really wanted to do another 100-mile race, and I didn't want to do it at Tarawera partly because I'd had such a good time there.
Right.
I didn't want to kind of taint it. Not that I ran a particularly fast time, but I enjoyed myself so much, and it went so well. No. It's it's all relative, isn't it? But I'd love to have gone much faster than I did, but it didn't matter. I had such a fun time. And so I kind of didn't really want to taint it. So I went to Naseby, intent on running, another 100-mile race there, and I didn't. I DNF'd after 100K. So, yeah, I did. I think my days of doing 100 miles are over. But anyway, that's all right.
Well, hopefully we can, sensibly and realistically challenge that if and when it comes to the time, right?
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. It's so far away. I'm not even, it's not even. 1 mile would be great at the moment.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It does daunt me, right? Like that's the thing too. And just sort of finally kind of thinking about that, knocked off a run with Rebecca today, and I think we peaked off about, and I'm on call too. So we got 26K in that one block. And we were gone all over the place, just like every little, it looks like a child's scribble on a mat, because it had to be in phone reception. And I just thought, I've got to do 7 times this distance.
Yeah,
I know.
The maths is different, and it doesn't really work that way. And you know that. It's not, but yeah, don't even think about that stuff, because it just doesn't even, when you're in the race, that's not a consideration at all,
Did you have any surprise moments of just joy, or like, hell yeah, this is amazing? And conversely, did you have any surprise challenges?
I loved the whole day. It was cool fun. I enjoyed it. And, even the little boat trip, I'm not sure what the course is this year, whether you get the boat trip, but the boat trip was fun. It was good fun. And then that run, towards the forest I enjoyed, and just the catching up with all sorts of different people, running with, people I hadn't met before, and getting into deeper meaningfuls with them. And I enjoyed it. The biggest mistake I made was that not getting my headlight out on time, which, I've talked about ad nauseum, so it really threw me, and I didn't get lost, but I felt I was lost. Yeah. And so I got a little bit panicky and stuff around that. So that was the surprising bad moment. But I really enjoyed it. It was good fun. I loved it. It was good fun.
I still think about that. You talk about such great lessons learned. I think about that a lot. That's really stuck with me in terms of that's one thing that I will take through into that race. It's
get your headlight out well before you need it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just to have it to hand, to be able, rather than scrambling around in your bag, and then it had come apart, so I had to put it back together again in the dark. Anyway,
If only you had a headlamp.
The most surprising good thing was because I couldn't really eat solids from quite early on in the day, and so I was surviving on gels and tailwind. And then I had one moment, like dementia patients can have those moments where it's just like this lucidity.
Yes,
I had a moment where I could eat.
Right.
And I sat down and I can't remember what it was, and our friend Tom was there, and he went, "Do you want a toasted cheese sandwich?" I was like, "Yes, I do." And he went and made me one, brought it back to me. I devoured it, and he's like, "Do you want another one?" I was like, "Yes, I do." By the time he got back, I was like, "No, I don't."
Yeah.
The window had closed.
Too much cheese. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like, nope. The window has closed for service. So that was fun. Anyway, look, I reckon if people have got questions, they should send them in, right?
Yeah. Let us know. Like,
if you know anything. Yeah.
And sharing ask us mostly anything. Sort of anything. But look, it's been great. I mean, and that's the thing too, Eugene. It's that thing, isn't it? When you did run, and it's that talk about having that family spend and just like being on the horns of that sort of madness of, COVID and not getting to come down, and but seeing how, that's been a massive inspiration as well. Like it's that sort of, that is something that sort of guides me as well, guides me forward. So, I'm super excited, and I'm sure that we'll be, checking in lots, leading up to the race. But thank you, bro. I really appreciated the chat, and I appreciated being pushed on the why as well. And thank you all listening for tuning in. We're on social media at Dirt Church Radio. You can email us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. And don't forget to sign up to the new podcast and newsletter.
Can we call it new?
Well, it is reasonably new. It's 8 months.
True. Yeah. Don't forget to send in your greatest run ever. We love hearing them. Go and have a look at them on the website. Have a look at Fiona's photos there. And then send us your one, dirtchurchradio@gmail.com.
And thanks to our supporters for the Faster, Currans and SQUADRUN, and to our Substack subscribers and the DCR AidStation crew. Stay tuned for our show in 2 weeks when we have another great guest lined up, and check out the DCR AidStation next week.
Hey, Corne. Thanks, Rigby.